So, today's chapter from the Jesse tree is called A Test of Love. This is my little brother. He cut himself. The voice was all too familiar to the carpenter, who gave a glum sigh. I took him to the first aid station on the beach, but I thought you could cheer him up with a story. The sheep's new. It's not a sheep, it's a ram, said the old man, running a rough palm over his latest carving. The little brother curled up on a pew to listen. When Sarah gave birth to a son, oh yeah, God kept God's promise, Abraham called him Isaac, which means he laughed. The child must have taken after his mother, you see, because Isaac was a fine boy, not like some you see nowadays. He was helpful to his mother, did as he was told, was good with animals, and was brave and handsome and clever. To Abraham and Sarah, he seemed even more special because they had waited so long for him. That's what's made it all the harder. The morning was cold, but there were beads of sweat on Abraham's neck as he lashed a bundle of firewood to the donkey's back. Fetch me a big knife, Isaac, and a coil of rope. We have to go into the mountains and offer a sacrifice to God. It was not unusual. In those days, people often made burnt offerings on their altars, the first sheaf of the harvest, the best lamb from the flock. It was a way of thanking God for God's goodness. Where are you going, Abraham? Asked Sarah, snatching at his arm. Why is your face so pale? But Abraham would not answer. The donkey seemed unwilling to move. It leaned back against the bridle. But at last they were on the way up the mountain paths, Isaac carrying a lighted torch, Abraham tugging the donkey along. "Oh, have we forgotten the lamb for the sacrifice?" asked Isaac, hoping they would not have to go back. "God will provide that," said Abraham. But his face was empty as a broken jug. They did not talk after that. The highest places are the holiest. Abraham climbed up very high indeed. Then he piled up the firewood, turned awkwardly, and strapped his arms around his son. It was something between a hug and a grab. "Son, it's you. God wants you for the sacrifice." No laughter now from Isaac. Abraham bound him with the rope and laid him all on the altar. The knife in one hand, he placed the other over his son's face, over his eyes. His fist rose to make the blow. "Quickly now, quickly, get it over. Get it done, get it over and done." The tears in his eyes made rainbows of everything. "Abraham! Abraham!" The voice came from nowhere and from everywhere. "Stop! Enough! Look!" A nearby thorn bush shook. An animal bleated. A ram had tangled its horns in the bush and couldn't get it free. Together, father and son dragged it to the altar and offered it up to God. Its blood stained them both. It had been a test, you see, to prove whether there was anything or anyone Abraham loved more than God. Whether there was anything he would try to keep back from God. But you've carved a ram," said the boy. "Not Abraham or Isaac. People might think Jesus was descended from a sheep. You know, the one that had to die." "Don't be ridiculous." The little brother had fallen asleep on the pews, his cut hand folded across his chest. They both stood looking down at him. I couldn't," said the boy. Could you?" Could I what?" said the carpenter. pass the test. Kill your son." Suddenly the angry carpenter was brandishing his chisel high up over their heads for all the world, like a big knife. "I don't have a son." "Oh," said the boy, unperturbed. "Maybe that's why you don't laugh that much." After they were gone, the old man returned grumbling to his work. But the words kept chipping at his brain in time with the tapping of his mallet. The sheep that had to die. Jesus, the sheep that had to die. Tomorrow, the next chapter.